This is the man who committed a very brutal crime against an innocent girl. What you're about to see in this video is deeply disturbing. Philadelphia never truly sleeps, a city where history, grit, and heart pulse beneath glowing streetlights. It's seen both triumph and tragedy, love and loss. But in October 2025, its rhythm broke. That autumn, a story gripped the city and the nation, the heartbreaking story of 23-year-old Kada Scott, whose life was stolen far too soon. Kada lived in a small North Philadelphia apartment with her college roommate, Jasmine. She worked as a medical assistant, saving to attend nursing school, dreaming of caring for children and bringing comfort to families. Everyone who knew her remembered her kindness, her calm confidence, and her warm smile. Her mother, Elaine, called her the family's anchor, the one who always checked in, who never missed a morning call or a goodnight text. But on the night of October 11, that call never came. It was a cool Friday evening when Kada left home, excited for a dinner with someone she'd met online. She wasn't nervous, just eager to unwind after a long week. She never returned. By morning, concern turned to panic. Her phone was off, her social media silent. Elaine filed a missing persons report, and police began reviewing local surveillance footage. At 9:14 p.m., cameras showed Kada walking to her car. Moments later, a man in dark clothing rushed toward her, entered the passenger side, and the car drove away, vanishing into the night.
In the search for Kada Scott today, earlier we learned police made an arrest in the case. I'm Fred Shropshire.
And I'm Jacqueline London. Investigators have been looking for Kada Scott since October 4th, and that search continues.
We did not find Miss Scott. We found some articles that are interesting, again, of evidentiary value, but Miss Scott was not there. Again, we're asking the public's help. All right, this is still a missing persons case. Like the Deputy Commissioner mentioned earlier today, the homicide unit's involved because of our resources and our experience. We're still asking the public's help if they know where Miss Scott is or they saw Miss Scott to give us a call.
Police traced her car's movement through nearby traffic cameras. It was last spotted heading north on Roosevelt Boulevard at 9:46 p.m. And then, nothing. The signal from Kada's phone stopped around the same time. For the next 3 days, her family and friends searched tirelessly, handing out flyers, organizing vigils, and pleading for information on social media. The hashtag #FindKadaScott began trending across the region. Every new lead led to another dead end until the morning of October 15th. A jogger running near Pennypack Park noticed a disturbance in the underbrush, what appeared to be a pile of clothing beneath fallen leaves. When he got closer, he realized it was something far more horrifying. Police were called, and by midday, detectives confirmed the worst. The body was that of Kada Scott. The medical examiner's report revealed that Kada had been beaten and strangled. The brutality of the crime sent shockwaves through Philadelphia. A young woman who had done everything right, who had trusted someone she thought she knew, had been taken and murdered.
NBC 10's Brian Sheehan has been following this case and joins us live in East Falls near where that vehicle was found. Brian, what can you tell us tonight?
Well, the search for Kada Scott has led investigators to this condominium complex on Gypsy Lane, right off of Lincoln Drive here in East Falls. We are told by investigators that a 1999 Toyota Camry belonging to Keon King is in the parking lot. Skyforce 10 is overhead.
We got to keep praying, we got to keep hoping, we got to keep believing.
It's been 13 days since this Philadelphia family last saw their beloved Kada Scott.
We do acknowledge that each day that goes by, that things can worsen, but we are determined to stay hopeful.
The community is holding on to faith too.
You're able, Lord, to bring Kada home, Lord.
Members of Christian Stronghold Church's Pray 365 team gathered outside the terrace at Chestnut Hill.
You're able, Father God, to bring justice to this family.
That's where the 23-year-old worked and was last seen before she disappeared during her shift.
God is a miracle worker, and a miracle
is on the way.
About 3 miles away from the senior home, police found Scott's personal items near abandoned Ada Middle School. They also recovered this Toyota Camry from a condo complex in East Falls. Detectives believe it belongs to 21-year-old Keon King, who is charged for kidnapping Scott and is being held on a $2.5 million bail.
We want information about Kada. Where is Kada? There was a lot of talk about things that should have been done. It's kind of too late for that for us. We just want her home. That's the most important thing right now.
Detectives immediately focused on the man from the surveillance video. Through a combination of facial recognition software and local tips, he was identified as 27-year-old Keon King. King had a long criminal history, prior arrests for assault, theft, and unlawful restraint. He'd been released from prison just 9 months earlier after serving a sentence for aggravated assault. To police, he was already a familiar name.
Assistant District Attorney Ashley Kozlowski is referring to this cell phone video shared on social media that's now being used as part of their investigation. Officials say it was taken earlier this year at a home in North Philadelphia.
What you're seeing in the video is a cell phone video that was taken by a person that was inside that residence. Keon King is, you can see his face, it's him on the video. He hops a fence and tries to gain entry into that property. He comes back twice, trying to gain entry into that property through a window.
Kozlowski says at some point after the video ends, the woman and another person in the home stepped outside, and that's when it's alleged King kidnapped her while his 2-year-old child was in the back seat. For the search for Kada Scott today, investigators focused their attention on King's 1999 Toyota Camry, which they believe Scott was in before she disappeared. Police sources also say they recovered evidence connected to Scott at an abandoned school in Germantown after their search there yesterday.
Police eventually tracked King to a relative's home in Germantown after an intense citywide manhunt that had lasted several exhausting days. When officers arrived to execute the warrant, King bolted toward the back door, leaping over furniture in a desperate attempt to escape. But he was quickly pursued through the yard and tackled to the ground after a short chase. Once inside the residence, detectives began their search and uncovered a black duffel bag hidden behind storage boxes in the basement. Detectives found Kada's phone, her purse, and her car keys, the very item she'd had with her on the night she vanished. The evidence was immediately secured and sent for forensic testing. Days later, the results painted a chilling picture. Kada's DNA was found on King's clothing, under his fingernails, and throughout his vehicle, confirming without question that he was directly responsible for her abduction and murder.
Remains there for 2.5 days. Using cell phone technology, investigators tracked King to this house on the 5500 block of Belmar Terrace. A search of the house turned up contractor bags, a hammer, and ammunition, among other items, according to the complaint. 2 women who lived there were detained and interviewed but released. King was not at the house. The criminal complaint says King's cell phone was tracked taking multiple trips between the Belmar Terrace home and the area where Scott's body was found. At 11:39 p.m. on October 5th, one day after Scott's disappearance, court records say King's registered Toyota Camry was caught on surveillance returning and parking at the recreation center next door to where Scott's body was found.
The arrest brought a brief moment of relief, but also outrage. Many questioned why a man with King's record was out of prison in the first place. Reporters pressed local officials about parole policies, and city council members began demanding changes. For Kada's family, the focus was on something simpler: justice.
He was traveling with her when her phone goes offline.
Because of Scott's disappearance, the district attorney's office refiled charges for a previous kidnapping case that was dismissed after the victim failed to appear in court. The DA blames the bail system, but admits they could have prosecuted differently.
We could have done better in that a really sophisticated approach to the case would have been to try to put it all on with video evidence.
When King made his first court appearance, he entered the courtroom wearing an orange jumpsuit and chains. He showed no emotion, staring straight ahead as prosecutors read the charges: first-degree murder, kidnapping, and abuse of a corpse. Kada's family sat in the front row, silent, holding hands. Elaine clutched a framed photo of her daughter as if letting go would make her disappear all over again. When asked for his plea, King said 2 words that cut through the courtroom like a blade: "Not guilty." Gasps rippled through the room. Reporters scribbled notes. The defense attorney argued that there was no evidence of premeditation, that the incident had been an unplanned confrontation. But the prosecution painted a very different picture, one of deliberate deception and violence. As the investigation deepened, chilling details emerged. Kada had met King online through a dating app. Their conversation started innocently about music, food, life in the city, but detectives later found messages that showed King's tone turning more insistent, almost controlling. He convinced her to meet him in person for dinner on October 11th. That was the night he ambushed her. Data from her phone revealed that just minutes before she left home, Kada had texted a friend, "I'm meeting that guy tonight. Wish me luck." Those were her final written words. The city mourned her loss collectively. Vigils were held across neighborhoods. Candles and flowers lined the front steps of her apartment building. Strangers came together, grieving a woman many had never met but felt they knew. Her story became a rallying cry against gender-based violence, a call for better protection for women, and a demand for reform within the justice system.
We appreciate everybody that took the time to show up on behalf of Kada, that came out, that was here when we wasn't here.
As a memorial for Kada continues to grow, her family is asking for privacy as they grieve, determined to keep Kada's memory alive.
Her beauty was not just skin deep. She was all of the words that was said. She was kind, she was shy, she was charismatic, she was life. She was life. Her beauty was not just skin deep. She was all of the words that was said. She was kind, she was shy, she was charismatic, she was life. She was life.
When the trial began in March 2026, the courtroom was filled to capacity every day. Reporters from across the country attended. The prosecution opened with the security footage, playing the grainy clip of Kada's final moments. The room went silent. Elaine turned away, unable to watch. Then came the evidence, the phone records, the recovered belongings, the DNA. Forensic analysts testified that King's fingerprints were found inside Kada's car and on the tape used to bind her hands. The prosecution described the crime as calculated and predatory. They argued that King had targeted Kada intentionally, creating a fake persona online to lure her into meeting him. Once he gained her trust, he struck. They presented a chilling timeline that detailed how King drove her out of the city, restrained her, and killed her in a secluded wooded area before abandoning her body. The defense tried to humanize him, describing him as a man shaped by poverty and violence, someone who made a terrible mistake but didn't intend to kill. But even they struggled to reconcile the brutality of his actions. During closing arguments, the prosecutor looked directly at the jury and said, "This was not a mistake. This was control. This was domination. This was murder." After 3 weeks of testimony and 7 hours of deliberation, the jury returned with a verdict: guilty on all counts. When the words were read aloud, Elaine Scott sobbed into her hands. King showed no reaction. The judge sentenced him to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Outside the courthouse, dozens of supporters embraced, but justice, as it often does, felt incomplete. The verdict couldn't bring Kada back. It couldn't erase the fear that spread through the city in the wake of her death. In the months that followed, community organizations formed new initiatives dedicated to women's safety. Universities held workshops on online dating precautions. Lawmakers introduced Kada's Law, a proposal aimed at improving background checks and increasing penalties for repeat violent offenders. And as the years pass, each October, people gather again beneath the gray autumn sky. Candles flicker, prayers are whispered, and for a moment, time stops. The air grows still, and in the quiet, it feels as if Kada is there, not as a ghost, but as a presence. Kada Scott's story is one of heartbreak, but also of strength. A story that began with fear and ended with change. And though her life was taken far too soon, her legacy continues to breathe in the hearts of those who will never forget the name that Philadelphia learned to say with both sorrow and love: Kada Scott,